I do have some slides, just things that came to mind when I was like, okay, what should I cover? And we'll go through this, then I want to just like get into some of the tools that I've been using in Cursor, and hear from you guys about certain tools that we should use or check out on like this. Marina. Suggested tools for this. I don't know if you guys are using Cursor. I found that to be one of the best IDEs. I don't know if you guys have tried anything else. Some of the tools I've used have suggested things like Windsurf. Haven't heard of it or haven't tried it, but I think it's another AI-powered IDE. Or Rue is one that I wasn't familiar with until one of the tools I installed created Rue configuration files. I was like, oh, that's another thing to add to the list.
Sorry, I forgot to connect to the Wi-Fi. You got it in another class?
Yes.
Saw the QR code later.
Awesome.
Yeah, I've used AIDER, AIDER, which is basically like it's for using it on the terminal basically. So you just chat with it like that.
Okay, it's just a terminal like CLI app.
Yeah, TUI, I can't remember. But like, I don't use an editor, like Cursor.
Oh,
Or, like, I don't use an IDE.
okay.
So
You use like Vim.
yeah,
Okay.
so very basic.
So not use an editor, that's either like
Well, I don't use an IDE.
like
sorry.
super skilled or just like fully vibe coding. I don't even want to see that code and make it work.
Just chat and that's it.
There are the apps like are lovable or like bolt at new, or like you don't see code. You like have to click buttons to see the code. So it tries to hide it away from you as much as possible. The people that I've seen use those more extensively are not developers. And I don't. It'd be interesting to see if you're not doing web. I think they're very web development focused. Like if you have specialized components like Noir, I'm not sure how well it would handle it. If it's even possible.
So a friend who's not a coder recommended me something I haven't actually checked it out with Google's one.
What was the thing you were mentioning?
AIDER.chat.
Oh, Jules, yeah.
AI.
DER.
Jules, yeah. I mean, you
Dot chat.
known coder, so he reckons it's
Okay. Interesting.
Maybe we should add a slide to this. If you guys want to get the slides, they're on the QR code. This one, okay?
Oh, it's pretty bad connection with me.
Ah, okay. Yeah, that's fine.
Pretty good QR code.
Yeah. Yeah, it's trying, but it's stuck.
Good.
It's everything in German.
Yeah, no. It's my VPN, I guess. I think the connection is like that. Oh.
Yeah, the internet sucks, so which probably doesn't help.
I was just gonna make a slide and start taking notes of tools. So if you guys get these slides, then we can see. It's weird that this button for adding a slide didn't show up on the German, and now it's in English.
I think you're on read-only access for some reason.
So we had AI. What was it?
DER.
Yeah,
Dot chat.
it's a,
I think.
And then yeah, this was what you're talking about, right? Marie.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. If you guys have, and you said Jules, Jewel.
Yeah, Jules, like the name. Yeah.
Go to Google.
also rabbits. for the commits.
This one?
Yeah, not sure. Yeah, I
Like
don't
unfinished,
know.
unhelpful AI gadget?
No.
Not to get too in the weeds on this, but
I'll find it.
yeah, kind of the suggested tools I had for what I've been setting up is Cursor IDE, the Claude AI API access, some of the
Code
Is that-
Rabbit, sorry. Code Rabbit.
Code Rabbit.
Yeah. I know how to rabbit somewhere.
Let's go back here. Claude AI API access. I'm using some MCPs, the model context protocols, where it's running a local tool to add context to the AI, and some of them provide AI access themselves. Like the one that I'm most impressed with right now is Taskmaster, which essentially does like project management and breaking down large complex problems into manageable coding tasks.
Can you please give a very short 101 to MCP first? For
Yeah, so like the hello world example of an MCP is like the timestamp MCP,
Okay.
which is essentially like when you're running these LLM, these models, they don't have context into like a lot of the current state of the world, whether that's like you see someone searching the web for information, or what even just like the timestamp on the computer, like what time is it? You ask an LLM what time it is, it like has no idea. So the basic MCP example is like it's just a timestamp server, which all it does is it's a tool that the LLM can call to get the timestamp. So it you prompt it, be like, okay, what time is it? It has some context and it knows what tools are available to it. And it's like, oh, I can use this tool to get the timestamp. So we'll call it, and all it will do is like return the current timestamp from your machine.
Right.
So the way that a lot of these MCPs are being like tools are set up is they're like published as npm packages.
Okay.
And then there's just a bunch of commands that like MCP developers will make available, and it's just running pretty much regular code, deterministic code that's fetching information about. I mean, they can really query anything, but it's really common for like your file system to read information in your files, create new files. There's plugins like it's actually.
But your LLM needs to support these MCP servers.
Sorry.
Your LLM needs to support these MCP servers, or they're like just centrally available and anybody can.
They're just available and you download them. There's a GitHub repository of like common MCPs. I think anybody can contribute to it, but there's like literally hundreds of them. Like they integrate with Google Drive and GitHub and Slack and other project management tools. There's one that I set up in Cursor that does browser. It will like connect to a local host in your browser, and it can like parse logs and take screenshots of whatever's running, which is really nice for development because you don't have to go through like copy pasting errors. You just like have the MCP running your browser tools, and it just basically gets all the information from there. It's like this context wouldn't normally be available in LLM.
Do you publish that MCP server or do you use it for your?
I haven't made an MCP server. I'm just talking about ones that I use.
Oh,
So like if I pull up Cursor, I can show the ones not used. Let's see how well this goes with like slow internet. I'll just reference this Noir password checker app. But here's my cursor settings. So like if I go to cursor settings, just click cursor in the gear in the top right. There's a bunch of general settings. I guess I am practicing. Alright. Cursor's also been making a lot of updates, so it changes quite regularly. It's getting much better, much quicker. You can turn off privacy mode, and you can actually have agents run stuff for you in the background if you have long-running jobs. I tried it for a bit, but looks like privacy mode's back on, and most of my tools are still working, so I'm just gonna leave it like that. But in this tools integrations, this is where you turn on MCPs. And it looks like by default it's recommending that I connect to GitHub. And what it can do with GitHub is it can do pull request reviews, it can create issues for you, it can see what's assigned to you, it can like do all of the GitHub things that you need as part of a project. This bug bot, I think I signed up for it initially, but it's like $50 a month or something. Like it's expensive enough that I was like, I'm just gonna leave this running for fun. But it's probably worth like at least. Probably worth paying for 1 month, honestly, to just see how it goes. But it probably depends a lot on the team that you're working with as well, if this is something you want to do. Also connecting to Slack. It says you can work with Cursor through Slack. Like, that's kind of crazy. I don't even know what that would look like. I guess pure vibe coding, you're not even in your editor, you're just building apps from Slack. But these tools that I've been using, Taskmaster AI, Playwright, testing framework, and then browser tools. These are MCPs that I just installed from where did I find these? Taskmaster I heard about at a previous vibe coding meetup. Playwright, Pedro actually found it. Yes, did we install it yesterday? I think we started playing with it. It's really nice for building user interfaces and getting feedback programmatically, just like Playwright testing. And then browser tools is like actually doing like the more browser debugging side of things. But generally, if you look at these servers, you just see Taskmaster over here. It's not on here.
There's also Smithery, that we talked about, as a way to find they have their own wrappers around
Yeah.
MCPs. We can always get the MCP itself, which is probably better. And it's like you can show Smithery maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just like a ton of MCPs you can get.
It's useful just to read through like what MCPs there are. This GitHub repo is also just an awesome repository, but you can just see some of the just example reference service, fetching web content, access to file system, doing Git stuff. So like an LLM, if you're just prompting it with chat, isn't going to have access to your Git system, but you run the Git MCP, and then now the LLM can actually do Git operations. So it can like commit files, it can craft commit messages, it can push branches and open PRs and that sort of thing. I guess PRs would be more GitHub specific, but there's memory systems like, oh, I want my LLM to have additional memory about a specific topic. Like you could run an MCP, like Pedro's building an MCP for Aztec network, where we have a bunch of information about all the nodes that are running on our network, like their uptime, what the current validator set is, like how many attestations we're missing, all this stuff. And it's like, oh, we can just wrap this information in an MCP, and then now we can use natural language to query information about the Aztec network instead of having to do these JSON RPC calls, which just makes it accessible to like the entire community in the Discord. Like most people in Discord aren't crafting JSON RPC requests using curl commands, right?
Yeah.
Like, so this just like makes all of that information available through natural language, which is super cool.
It's also the way that you use, for example, Cursor. It always asks for small models to do things for it. It's just tool calling, so you could actually use a small model that would be like trained in Noir stuff, for example, and then use Cursor as through MCPs to basically just craft circuits. Let's say that you're like, okay, use this MCP to craft a circuit, and it would be an MCP connecting to a small model that's very well trained on in Noir.
Do you need to like specify that you want to use this MCP or
Yeah.
It will just know. I mean, you need to install it here. Like,
install it? Yes,
to-
but then.
But then the model itself will know if it needs to call, because you're like, if you provide a tool, MCP tool that says a model to write Noir circuits,
Yeah. So
and then the AI is like, okay, Noir circuits, I don't know how to do it. Oh, but here's the tool I can
usually
call.
it does know how to do it, but maybe not as efficiently as your.
Sometimes it's not as efficient as I say.
Yeah. yeah, exactly. So that's why I was wondering, how does it choose?
Yeah, it just thinks about it. Yeah.
Okay.
It's pretty good. Like in this Taskmaster example, they have example like specific prompts that you'd want to do at specific steps. Like initialize Taskmaster AI in my project, and we'll just like, this is guaranteed to run
Yeah, but
the
honest-
setup.
even if you know, like, okay, like okay, 1.1 like milestone 1.1 is done. Okay, let's go. Well, 1.2 now. You can basically tell it like this, and it will, okay, it
Yeah.
will understand that you're like done with 1.1. Or like, oh, 1.1, okay, but yeah, I don't feel so confident about this. And it's like he understands that you'd actually not want to move forward. You just want like, and start adding some tests. You know, so it's like just a natural. It's just like you would talk with the project manager. Like, you don't have to tell project manager, oh, we can move to the next milestone. But that's the project manager job to know that they need to. So it's cool. And the same with Taskmaster. It's like you can treat it as a human project manager. Yeah.
So adding these MCP servers to your project in Cursor is like, oh, I want to add browser tools, I just add this. Like it's just a few lines. Yeah, you can see.
Oh, let me know your keys.
You can't see the end of it, so I feel safe.
You can see the wall. It's hot.
But yeah, then I can just like turn these on. So like, if I just start Taskmaster, hopefully it works with shaky internet. Okay, so now I'm running the Taskmaster AI tool, so I can open the chat. I'll just ask what task am I.
Yeah, this is mostly interesting because it really loses track on where it's at, and this is very important for context. Just the fact that you have specific idea on where in the whole PRD is your task, it's really important. That it won't like try to write or think about the front end if it's not in the task, the current assets. Just narrow it down to the actual, just like a human, right?
Yeah.
So,
I might wait on this just to get through some of the higher level points, because this like, I'm basically halfway through a project that I initialized with Taskmaster that's already broken up a bunch of stuff, and I can like contextualize like this a little better if we go through some of this other stuff. So yeah, basically what I did before I started this project, I just have Cursor, I set up my Cloud API key, and then I have Noir installed, like Nargo and DB, just like basic Noir tooling. MCPs really get to this problem of like context. Providing the right context to an AI is super important to help it succeed. And Cursor does some context gathering automatically just by like whatever project you open in Cursor. So like it will index your code base. You can actually add specific files to your Cursor. There's a Cursor ignore file. It's a specific type of configuration file that you can tell Cursor to ignore things. But you want to give the AI enough context to be helpful, but not too much context that it doesn't get confused. Like sometimes it can just get stuck coding in loops with like I see it commonly with lint errors.
Yeah.
It'll just do the repetitive tasks and just like clearly can't figure it out. It just doesn't have the right context. Fine-tuning that depending on the size of the code base you're working with, like the projects that I've been working with, and mostly what we do on DevRel is like example projects, and it's never too much context, but like Aztec packages where the entire Aztec engineering team is building the entire blockchain in our mono repo, like it's way too much context. You just like drop basic questions of like what's in this repo to an AI, and it's too much information. It can't.
But how can you
separate it out. But how can you say like, here's the repo so that you have it for reference. So don't ask me stupid questions like, hey, maybe look in it. Just go and do that yourself. But only do that if you need to.
Yeah. At least with Aztec packages, there are parts of the code base that, like, depending on what you're working on, you may never touch. Like, there's a tons of cryptography stuff in C++. The whole proving system, Brettenberg. Anybody doing engineering work on the network side of things right now would never need to know anything about the proving system or any of that. So you can just like cursor and Noir all of Brettenberg. Irrelevant information, basically.
And you can be really persuasive with the AI model and say, really look at this folder, every file in this folder. But and most of the AIs will be like, okay, this will fill up my context, and it's true. Like you can do it once, you just fill your context window all at once, one task. So maybe it's worth it, maybe it's not. So cursor was just like, again, narrow it down to exactly what you want it to look. And then you can reliably say, yeah, all the folders you can see are everything that you want to, you don't need to touch anything else. So an example, if you have like sensitive information in your end files, sometimes you're like, okay, I would prefer to ignore the environment variables. Sometimes you just don't. Like, if you're doing something locally or something, you're okay. Like, there are no actual secrets. You may want to have like a m.local, and that will be fine to send to the AI so it can run stuff. So yeah, it's just to narrow it down in general.
But I guess it feels like there should be a way to automate that too.
You can. So the second point, like tagging folders and files. I mean, there's probably an MCP that can help you.
That would be the way to do it.
Find appropriate
separate
context.
tool to be like, I haven't got enough information, but I don't want to bust my contact when clean up.
Yeah.
Have you guys been able to sort of find the correlation between the context and the token size limit between these models? Because, like, is there a way to know that, okay, maybe giving the token size is too big or something?
I'm not sure. There might be tooling that you can run. Yeah, I don't know. I'd say this is like probably current research in the AI community.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to use these tools. Yeah. But with cursor, you can tag files and sites, files, folders, and sites. So like, if I go to
you can index those as well. Just
if I just do @ it gives me all these things I can tag. So I can tag specific code. I can tag documentation. I have the Aztec protocol docs and the Noir docs indexed in cursor, which is just another setting. Like if I go to indexing, you just add docs here. Just add a doc, and you just paste a URL, and then you index a doc site. This is super useful because, like, especially with Aztec protocol and Noir, well, not so much Noir now, but the docs are changing regularly. And like some of the models we're using have been trained like 6 months ago. So it's not even that old, but it's like old enough that like, oh, the docs have been updated since then. Like, let me add the docs at the site to the context. But you can tag these sites, you can tag files and folders. So like you can tag an entire folder, be like, oh, I'm working in this folder. Oh, I'm working in this file, but look in this folder for relevant information. And if you know that as a person, just tell the AI that directly in your prompt, and it's gonna likely be better. So you can tag. I guess you can tag all sorts of things here that will just like highlight this to the AI, because when you're providing context, like the most recent thing in the context window is gonna get more emphasis. Just like in conversations you have with people, like the more recent things you say are gonna be more top of mind to a person. So if you just like want to highlight on those specific things, that can be helpful.
Yeah. So for example, if you that's where I guess the human behind the human behind the machine is the one that can point to these things. So if you have like a monorepo with different services, and just knowing where things are, so you can tag that specific folder, even if you don't do exactly so. I've been doing a ton of Express Node.js stuff. I was like, sometimes I don't remember. I could actually search for what is the root that I want to refer to, but I'm too lazy. I would prefer it to know the whole context of the wall because maybe it's a post root, but then that also changes the get root, and I'm not even remembering that. So I'll just point to the wall folder and say, oh, here's express. This is everything that's expressed. I know that there is nothing outside of this that will reference this because it's a manual repo, so I can just, instead of having the whole context, say, hey, here's the whole code base, we'll just use a ton of context, just knowing where things are. But you can actually point in a more, again, narrow direction to do a better job. So the human behind the machine is definitely, it's key to the success of the AI model. Just
Where your
basic.
software development expertise actually, like people are like, oh, it's gonna take software jobs, but it's like, I don't know, we're solving problems by writing software, and having context on the problem and appropriate ways to get there is more important than actually like executing, like actually typing the characters in the proper sequence to create the app that compiles. And the AIs can't do that. I mean, presumably there may become a time when they can do that, but I think
That's no
still
fundamental reason why they can't do that.
there's no fundamental reason.
No, yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
Like solving relevant problems for humans is always going to be a human problem, right? I mean, which problems to solve for humans is always the relevant problem.
yeah, you can think. I mean, if you've done some Web 2, I was a contractor in like this kind of Web 2 thing, and it was like, oh, here's this AWS request. I need to add this thing to this AWS request, and actually, we didn't even know or want or care, or others didn't want us to know what it was doing. We were tasked with something to do. And we were like, oh, here comes the request. I need to add this field to this request and send it back somewhere. And okay, that's my job. Like, I do that from 9 to 5, and then I go home. And AI will take those jobs. AI won't take the
All right,
job
I'm
that
gonna
will
keep going.
Sorry, yeah.
Yeah. I don't know how much time we have.
1 minute.
What?
Oh, no, it's 5 seconds.
No, he's joking.
It was half an hour, right?
It's 3 o'clock now.
No, I think we have more time.
Okay.
We're gonna check on this. 4:15.
We did that.
And you guys can leave too. Like I was just planning on being here more than 45 minutes and just talking about this as long as you guys want it, because I am very optimistic about this. I think it's super, super interesting stuff, and I want to make it as capable as possible. But just moving on, adding documentation sites, I mentioned that. Setting agent roles, you can basically specify ways that you want agents to interact with your code base. You can basically do coding style, you can do how they interact with GitHub, how they manage projects. Like these are very flexible, and a lot of the MCPs will actually specify specific types of coding or rules for how to like use them, which helps them succeed. There's like pattern matching for when they know which MCPs to call. There's this idea of like self-gathering context, which we talk about how important context is for LLMs to be successful. I've been using agents to just comment the shit out of my code that's running, and then all the comments get fed back into the AI, so they have much more visibility into what's actually happening during execution, and it just makes them way more successful when they're trying to execute stuff. So like, I don't even have to write all the log statements. I don't need to think about what to do. I just basically try to make the code execution as visible as possible. AI solves the problem and then just like remove all the code, and it's like a couple prompts. Like it feels like a lot because it's adding hundreds of lines of code to my file, but it's like easy to clean up as well. So just thinking about ways to make your code more visible, because that's how you make these LLMs successful. Like how do you get this context in? So that's like writing readmes and code comments. Use the LLMs to make sure these stay up to date. Like writing reference docs and building like mermaid diagrams, and then sending those pictures into the AI. Like use AI to write these. Like I'm having AI structure this huge project, and I'm just like, okay, make some mermaid diagrams so like other LLMs can get context on what this thing even looks like. It's been super useful. I talked about these MCPs, browser access, browser automation, taskmaster. We can get more into that, like actually using cursor in a minute, and ignoring files and monitoring codes and using that. There's this difference between thinking models and non-thinking models. I don't have a good intuition on this. Well, my current intuition is like thinking models. It's easier for them to get confused, but they're much better at like more complex reasoning tasks. So they need less guidance, but they have more opinion. They're more opinionated about how to execute things. So like maybe for coding, it depends on the problem. You just have to figure out what sorts of problems they're good at. But like this is Claude 4 Opus, Gemini 2.5 Pro, ChatGPT o3, versus like non-thinking models, which are much better at like more specifically scoped tasks, like coding tasks, particularly. But they need more explicit instruction. And like one of the things I like about Taskmaster is it's literally generating the explicit instruction for these like more non-thinking models to execute coding instructions, and it just does it super well. So like Claude 4 Sonnet, ChatGPT 4.1.
So in terms of usage, like how do you separate the thinking and non-thinking? What for?
When I'm using Cursor, I just have it on auto most of the time, honestly, so I don't even pick.
Okay.
There's this thing in Taskmaster where you can basically specify the main model that you're using for writing code, and then there's like a research model that they suggest for like, I think that's when they're analyzing complexity of a project, they break down tasks based on complexity, and I think the agent that's analyzing the complexity of the task is a research model, and then basically if it's too complex, it breaks it into subtasks, and then it makes sure its complexity is below a certain threshold for it to actually be able to execute. Like for example, like it needs to be below complexity level 8 for like a Claude 4 Sonnet to be able to execute it effectively or something. So it's like does complexity analysis. If it's too high, it's like okay, subtasks, and then each subtask will be more or less complex.
What's the best combination of the agent or agents and model? Like which is best suited for the agent setting?
So here's what I'm using for Taskmaster, for example, which is like doing this like project management task breaking up. So like my main model is Claude 4 Sonnet, which I believe is just doing a lot of the coding tasks. My research agent is GPT 4.0 from OpenAI.
I think it's not for code tasks. I think it's just for the model. Like
Yeah, I mean just for the cursor settings.
yeah,
Oh, I don't know. I think it depends. I just
So you just
use
use it on
auto.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
I was
Never use
coding with
auto.
Pedro yesterday, and he's like selecting based on what he was doing, like picking between like.
the reason is
Or
like
Sonnet.
I just think that auto will always give you the cheapest one they can pay for.
Yeah.
So they'll just spare
So-
with the cheapest one.
Yeah. So which one is the best that can handle the agent system best?
I just default to Claude 4 Sonnet.
Yeah.
Okay.
Not for
But if
I've seen
if you're a
Claude 4
millionaire, you can
Sonnet.
use the Pro.
There's like Opus, and then there's like Max as well, which are more expensive. But I've seen, I think 4 actually scores as well or higher on some tasks as like
I mean,
Opus or
yeah.
or Max.
I mean, you don't need a maximum model for the agent task. Maybe agent needs to go fast through the whole pipeline or
Yeah, I mean, this would be again something where like I'd probably just do similar tasks with different agents and see how it compares. Because I mean, a lot of the reports I read people literally make businesses out of doing this analysis now, and like
and what about Gemini?
I haven't even used it. I've heard it's good though. Like I heard Google's like catching up on.
I've tried Gemini on Claude as well, on Cursor as well. It's good because it has a higher context, but I feel it hallucinates a lot, so
Okay.
I just tend to go for Claude 4. But it really depends. If you really need a big context, may pay off. Because
Yeah.
it was 1 million token context.
Yeah. We should try analyzing Aztec packages with John and I. We can see what happens. Cool. Jumping back here. Yeah. Talked about indexing relevant documentation sites. Aztec and Noir, and then tagging them when you have specific questions.
I have a doubt about the documentation. So let's say you make changes in your documentation. Like I often try to delete and add it back, but the index date never changes. So let's say you made a lot of changes past the date, then how does the...
You need to re-index it. It doesn't track it.
Yeah, I've tried to do that, but it doesn't do that. It just says that it's indexed at that time. I try to delete it, I try to resync. But
Oh, I see.
yeah.
So this was index. Right. Let's just try.
Oh,
it.
okay.
indexes.
Okay, you could reindex. Okay, now.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you could.
Yeah, that should. I mean, there could also cursor graders just be having issues. I mean, they only got to 1.0. Yeah.
Yeah, see, it says 12 again. Yeah, I could have tried it. Yeah.
It didn't reindex.
I tried to close and open back again.
Probably just a bug problem.
Could it be that something needs to have changed in the document for it to realize that it needs to reindex it? Because it could be smart enough to see that
Yeah,
nothing
maybe.
has changed. Oh, you can try to mess around with the documents and then.
Cursor rules. There's different types. Different cursor rules you can, like types of cursor rules you can add. So like you can have rules that are always applied or they're automatically attached based on the LLM's analysis. Or like the agent can request to use a rule so it's not automatically applied but it will notify you. Or like manual, so only if you trigger it. You can scope them by folders. So like this is super customizable again and like something you I don't know, maybe want to play with. I haven't gotten too deep on cursor rules, but it is a thing that's there. If you have like different conventions for different parts of the repo or something. You got to keep your code working, especially if you're like vibe coding really quickly on something and just like iterating fast. Agents can get code into a bad state very quickly because they're just writing so much code. If you don't have tests set up, like I've seen this happen on like Replit, for example, where like they'll write a bunch of code and then you're like telling it to add some features or make some changes, and then you try to run it again and it just doesn't run because it introduced some bug, and you're like, okay, try to go back to whatever previous working version. It can't get back to the previous working version because it's just confused itself too much. I think Replit has version control baked in now, I think. But essentially use version control. And one thing that was like talking to somebody at Aztec about this last week about security concerns about using AIs to write so much code, and I was like, I've actually written way more tests and there's way more coverage on my projects now than I have ever before, because you literally just tell AI to write tests for my project and it will just spit out 50 tests for you in a minute, and it's like this would take an afternoon to do before. So now like you learn about test-driven development in school, right? Where you write the tests first and then you implement the software to actually like make all the tests pass, but like nobody ever actually writes software like that. But like you could feasibly do that in a real work environment using AI, because you have like a spec that defines what it should do, just have it write the test for you really quickly, and then the AI is just implementing all the software to make all your tests pass. So like, that's actually a really good way to work with agents, because then you know if you have good test coverage, if the AIs are going to break things, you'll just instantly know when you run your tests, like, oh, this broke this. So it's kind of related to like visibility as well. A tool that I've used a little bit, I don't know if you guys have tried it, but the OpenAI Codex, like if you have ChatGPT, just go to chatgpt.com. There's a pull it up. There's a tab now for Codex, which will index public repos on your file, and basically set up a coding environment for an agent to actually run code. I guess it's quite similar to Cursor, but like this is all, an agent has like complete control to run whatever it wants to investigate your repo. And then there's actually buttons here, like I have this task running on the Noir examples repo, and you basically start a conversation with an agent with all the relevant code here, and there's like, it's suggesting changes to my code base based on my prompts. I can comment, like basically do a PR review right in this window, and just like change this, and it will adjust, like make some adjustments, and then I can literally just open a pull request with it, with whatever changes it has, like right here. So I just like open a pull request, open it up, and it's really easy to merge your code right back into GitHub. So it's I find like this was useful for making like small edits to a code base, and I didn't even need to open an editor. But it's just another tool that might fit into like a dev workflow depending on what you're trying to do. I think it works on your phone too, which is pretty crazy. So, OpenAI Codex, additional resources. DeepWiki does like documentation based on GitHub repositories. I think someone did one on Aztec packages, which was like pretty good. There were definitely some significant errors with like how it understood Aztec, and the difficulty with this is like if you're just learning about a new subject, you actually wouldn't even know where the AI is like bullshitting you in terms of like what's wrong about the documentation that's generated. So like this one's a little dangerous depending on what you're learning about. I guess it's like that with anything, right? If you're talking to ChatGPT about a domain you don't know about, you're just not going to know when it's lying to you or hallucinating. But these are some additional tools. I was thinking of doing like breakout sessions. This is a smaller session. We've already been going for, we've been going for about 45 minutes. But I was thinking it might be fun to try to write a simple Noir project, but I could also just go through this this Noir password checker example and how I've been using some like MCPs to basically build this thing. Might be worthwhile since we already kind of jumped in here. But yeah, any questions?
Yeah. Is there like a repo full of examples of different types of circuits that you have already pre-built?
We have this Noir examples repo, and it's largely kind of like getting started examples, so they're quite simple. I'll show you what's in here, but there's like generating a Solidity verifier contract. There's a couple web starter examples where we have like a Vite app, vanilla app that's like no framework. There's a recursion example. What's web starter have? There's a simple circuit in this, but it's mainly for like showing how to set up a project with Vite and Webpack. Recursion is like verifying proofs in other circuits. So there's a few examples here, not a ton. I can talk through my setup on this Noir password checker app. So I went to Claude and I was basically like, hey, I'm doing a workshop on vibe coding with Noir and I want to create an example project. Like, what should I do my example on?
Also, it would be nice to see how you set up the task master kit. I've never used that before.
Yeah, I'll get to that. Because first what I started was this prompt. It's like, oh, I want to start a new app. And it's like, okay, here's some ideas for circuits you could write. It was like age checker, password, strength checker. Then there were some like more advanced ones. I don't recall. I don't like the age checker one that much because like you essentially need, if you just rely on user input and proofs, that's like not secure. You're just trusting someone to be honest, which ZKPs don't help with that. So I was like, oh, password checker, like let's do that one. Password checker is kind of cool because I can create a circuit that checks that a password is a certain length and has a certain number of uppercase and lowercase letters and a certain number of special characters. I can just give you a proof and you can check that it like meets all these criteria without you actually knowing the password. So it's like, oh, that's kind of cool. Like, and could actually be useful if like some security team wants to implement that. So it's like, okay, cool, let's do that. Write me a product requirements document that describes what I should build or what I should implement for this password checker app. I told Claude to do this. The Taskmaster MCP specifically asks for product requirement documents, and they're like generally, kind of extensive with user stories and all the features and like functional requirements. But I just tell Claude to write this, and it writes. I didn't edit anything in this. It's an executive summary. So it's the privacy-preserving web application that allows users to prove passwords meet security requirements without revealing the password, using ZK snarks with Noir, They demonstrate their password policies while maintaining privacy. Okay, cool. Problem statement, goals and objectives, target users, core user stories. And some of my other side projects, like I'm building a Discord bot using this Taskmaster thing, and it's super effective. But I actually edited some of the stuff that they wrote for me in the PRD. I'm like, oh, I don't actually want the user story to do these 2 things, and then I added 2 more things to this other thing. So I did very minor edits to the PRD before I pasted it into my project. But basically, my repo started the project, and I just put prd.txt, and then I opened this up, and I just did the command that's like taskmaster initialize my project based on my PRD. I just ran that prompt, and it created this folder. Well, it created a couple things. It created all these rules. A lot of these rules are related to developer workflow and improvement and Taskmaster. So these all came with the Taskmaster package, and like this is what you get when you install Taskmaster. But like I ran the initialize, and it set up all these tasks. So we don't really need to read the details, but kind of just like getting a sense of like it analyzes the PRD and is like, okay, here's the high level what they want to do. Here's the complexity of various components. Like, what do I need to do? It does all the analysis and research. Okay, there's task ID 1. This one got complex, so they added 5 subtasks. And it will work on each subtask individually. They're kind of like scopes, so they can be done independently. There's a dependencies list. So like if you look at some of these dependencies, like for task 2, it's actually number 1 is a dependency of number 2, so that means task 1 needs to be completed first. If you look at some of these later ones, like task ID 13, it only requires 2, 3, and 5 to be done first. So these have various dependencies. You don't have to go into strict order, but like there is some ordering that's required, and it has it defined here. There's a description, there's details of what's actually needed for the task, there's a status, like deferred means like I actually started this task and I was like, wait, I don't want to finish this one doesn't sound like fun. There's optimized circuit and comprehensive test cases. I was like, it actually didn't give me very good recommendations on optimizing circuits because it didn't know the limitations around like loops in Noir are actually unrolled, and you can't short circuit loops or anything like that in ZK circuits, and that was largely what it's suggesting, so it just said skip this. But it's basically just making this big task list, and then when I open up my project now, I'm like, okay, what is my current task? It's gonna be slow, and that's a little bit. It's basically doing project management. So the earlier tasks were a lot of like setting up this repo. So it set up the back end. It's a Express server. The circuits. It wrote all of these circuits for me. Well, let me run this task thing, and I'll go into the circuits because that part's actually pretty much complete, and I vibe coded the whole thing. My current task is setting up the CI and CD pipeline and build scripts, which is currently marked as in progress and high priority. Yeah, CI would be nice. I think I set up the back end, and then I actually hadn't set up CI for it yet, so I need to like set up a testing file for the back end. Which isn't the most exciting thing. I pretty much jumped into writing the circuit initially because I just wanted to see how good it was at it. And we can actually go over what's in the circuit. I was very impressed with how well it wrote this Noir circuit, honestly. The circuit takes a password, the password length. These are all private inputs. Nothing's marked as public. This should actually probably be public. The password improvement. But anyway, it takes the password length, the min length and max length for the password, the minimum character types. So like presumably all of these would actually be public. It's just yeah. I say I did a really good job writing this circuit, and it says like Just trying to figure it out. See if it.
It says it's incorrect.
Yeah. This isn't correct either. And then I think I'm sure how all the tests probably should still pass. It's going to. Okay, yep, on my test pass. So I just made an edit and tested, and it's all good. But just going back to actually writing the circuit, it's asserting that the password commitment matches the password when it's actually hashed. It's asserting that it meets all the min and max length requirements. And then this is the biggest chunk of the circuit where it's just checking the different character types. So lowercase characters, uppercase characters, as number. When I saw it writing all this stuff, so it wrote these helper functions to check the character types. And I was like, I don't know the character types. I don't want to look up the character types. I don't want to reason through this. And I also don't know the best syntax to like actually do all of these checks in a circuit in terms of like there's no bitwise operators in Noir, so like there's different syntax. And I was like I actually don't even know if this is gonna work. But it wrote it, and I was like, okay, now write some tests here. And like I'm looking at the tests. I think the tests are actually much easier to read. I'd probably want to do some more checking to make sure that like character types actually match like expected character types. I haven't gotten to the front end yet where I'm actually doing input in a browser and then passing that into the circuit. But given these tests, I'm like, okay, at the high level, like there's character codes, they're being passed into the circuit, and then it's checking like lengths, the number of character types and all of these things, and it's doing this. It's checking that the strength is valid. It's just checking that it works at all with mostly zeros. It's checking like too short, missing types.
You don't need the front end to verify this.
These are just running tests for the circuit, and I'm so like, I'm just running like I just add this macro to these function calls in Noir, and just checking that the test should fail, and yeah, these last 3 or 4 are like failure cases, and the first 2 are success cases. I might probably write a bunch more tests. I could have Cursor write a bunch more tests for me, but I was like happy with the state of this circuit to like start working on the next things. For the back end, I didn't actually implement any logic yet. I think I just structured it and then didn't implement any logic yet. And then the front end, I had it set up React app using Vite, and I don't think I have any like proof generation or verification logic in the front end yet either. So like, basically what it looks like when I'm working on this project, I say, what is my next task? Oh, my next task is setting up the CI pipeline. Okay, what's the plan for setting up the CI pipeline? And it lists a plan for me, and it's like, oh, do you want to start execute the plan? And I just say yes, and then it's like, okay, run this command, and it's usually like installing some package or running some command to get some input or output, and I have it set up so like I'm approving every command that Cursor requests to run. You can turn that off if you're feeling you really trust the AI overlords. You can just have it run everything without checking, but I still like to see the process that it's thinking through and approving those things manually. But I'm pretty much just clicking yes, run every single time. But it helps me kind of like see into the reasoning process as well. And then sometimes there'll be linter errors or like it'll be editing a file and it reminds me that like, I need to do this one thing, and I can just like interrupt its flow. Like I won't stop its current line of thought, but it'll finish its thing, and I'll just be like, okay, implement this other thing that I just thought of, and it will like go implement the other thing, and then it can come back and continue the task if I tell it to. And so far with like my Discord bot project and this project, it's like pretty much what is the next task, execute the next task. Maybe I'll have to go on GitHub and like run some CI and just like check that CI is working. Then I commit changes, push my branch, just repeat that. It's like kind of insane how little code I'm writing versus how many lines are being written by this agent, and it's like I haven't gotten to the part yet where I'm using these like Playwright or browser tools yet, because I'm like still basically set up the outline of the browser, and I haven't imported Noir.js, so I'm not like hitting errors yet. It'll be interesting to see like when I hit Noir.js errors of like with like WebAssembly likely, how it actually reasons through solving those sorts of issues. But at least like a lot of the annoying parts of the early part of a project where it's like it's non-trivial amount of work to like set up testing and front ends and back ends and these frameworks and stuff, and it's kind of just it's actually made me realize how much work it is, because even with Taskmaster and automating the entire thing, I'm still spending like it probably took me an hour of work to get this far of like setting up a back end, writing a circuit, and writing the front end and stuff. And it's like if I wasn't even using AI tools, it would have been a day. So huge speed improvement, and it just makes it more fun. It takes away a lot of the most tedious, annoying parts of writing code. So my hope for this sort of thing is like it just helps us get these like example applications out in the world in a published place more quickly, because like this password checker again is like kind of a nice idea. I mean, it's not like a super interesting project, but it's like almost easy enough for me to get to something that I can actually publish to a website and just like put it somewhere public so people can see it and try it, that I'm like, oh, maybe I'll just actually do it. But like if I did code all this stuff by hand, there's no way I would take a password checker app like all the way to just publishing an MVP, you know what I mean? So and also just doing it to like learn how to engage with these tools, because the development workflow is so different now than it was like for me than like 2 months ago, just because of these tools. Yeah.
This GitHub MCP is this does it make everything natural language for GitHub as well?
I haven't enabled it, and the reason I haven't is because I do a lot of work in like Aztec like the Aztec protocol organization and Noirlang organization repos, and I believe, well, let's just see. Let's see what permissions it asks for.
I mean, it needs a read write to your.
I would imagine. So like that would mean it would be good for my personal repos, but not necessarily like anything that I'm working on professionally. But like what I do, since all of our code at Aztec and Noir is open source, like I forked the Noir examples repo,
Yeah.
and now I do like work on my local branch with